What's up, everybody, and welcome to the All Leads Suck podcast, where all leads suck. Just kidding. Guys, my name is Dominic Felix.
Sam Bell?
Luis Rodriguez.
Guys, and we appreciate you for joining us. Guys, every week we're going to come to you with the absolute fire. We want to go in on lead generation. We want to improve ourselves. We want to improve the leads. We want to talk about marketing, and we really want to bring a tremendous amount of value to you guys. And what we're going to do for today and for the next few episodes is we really want to go in on the introduction of ourselves to you guys. You might know us at some level, but lots of you guys, we're going to be pretty brand new to you. And we want to prove to you that this podcast is going to go above and beyond most anything that's out there. So today, especially, we've got our good friend, one of our best friends, Luis Rodriguez, in the building. He's a co-host.
Yes, sir.
But we need to learn about him. Are you guys ready for that? That's the question. Are we even ready?
Hell yeah, I think so.
I don't know if we're ready, dude.
Trying to get to know who
How do
to do
you
business with.
how do you
Exactly.
become ready for a podcast? What do you have to do mentally in your mind to prep for a podcast?
Well, you've done the most amount of podcasts, so you should know.
Right,
Yeah.
but this is your guys' first few handful or whatever. So are you guys like in the mirror? Are you guys saying you are the best? You are number one. Are you doing shit like that
Holding the comb?
or are you just like winging it?
Yeah. I think just winging it for the most part.
I
Okay.
had a full night preparation.
Oh shit. You like
Yes.
putting lotion on and
Yes, I'm still very nervous, so I don't know if I can even speak about.
I love
That's
it.
saying a lot for Sam.
So,
Yes.
what we want to do today, guys, is we want to learn about Lewis so you can understand the fire that he's going to bring to you guys over the course of the next few years that you guys are going to be tuned in with us.
Yep.
And he also has a tremendous amount of sales experience and business experience, which is invaluable, right? And
Absolutely.
there's a reason, in my opinion, and I think we all agree, why we're calling this the All Leads Suck podcast, right? It's not really because all leads suck, but I think if you guys would agree that we should expect them to suck and we should bring our best each and every time because that's what's going to help us convert at a really high level. Would you guys agree with that?
Absolutely.
I
Yeah.
like to disagree with things, but I'm gonna agree.
Okay. I know we're going to argue about this later, motherfucker. So he's the motherfucker here, just so that you guys know. So Lewis, man, how you doing, bro?
Yeah. Good, man. Just living the dream, Little sore from yesterday's workout, but getting through it.
Okay. Do you think that some people don't get to live the dream?
Definitely.
Wow.
Oh yeah. They don't even know that there is a dream.
I mean,
They're so
people that are
lost in their
born out,
worlds.
people that are born outside of the United States.
Oh, shit. That's very true in part, for
Yeah,
sure.
a little bit.
But makes you wanna cry, right?
It does.
You don't get to
It's
live your
frustrating.
dream. We
Yeah.
need to help with that.
Yeah. I think a lot of people need help with that.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Cool, man. Okay, so Lewis, can you start off by helping us all learn a little bit more about you? Can you give us a brief introduction about yourself?
Yeah, absolutely.
Long one?
Yeah, I'll try and keep it brief. So originally I was born in Tampa, Florida, and I moved out of there, young age, 2, 3 years old, and spent majority of my life in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, suburbs of Philadelphia,
Mhm.
where I got into the tire sales industry, which was really
Mm.
cool. Did that for about 5 years, and for the last 5 years, I've lived here in Jacksonville, which I really enjoy doing, and have been involved in real estate, and now starting these two companies with you guys.
Very cool. Would you say working in that tire company gave you a lot of good sales experience, like direct sales experience?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think it taught me a lot because the business was multifaceted. Like it had a retail division, but also a business to business division.
Mhm.
So you got to see both sides of sales really, because there is kind of two different thought processes
Both sides
for
of
those.
sales.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Can you elaborate on that?
Well, your retail client's going to care about things differently than your business client, right? Like they
Mm,
need things for their business, and they typically run off of, dollars, what makes sense financially.
right.
Whereas when I was working with retail individuals, it's more individually based. Some
Mhm.
things may work for some that may not work for others. So it's finding what that need is and figuring out how to fill it.
Gotcha. So kind of wholesale versus retail in a way,
Yeah,
providing products for businesses rather than just one off. individuals at the retail level.
Right, right.
Okay. So, can you talk a little bit about because you have a really good experience that you've told us about several times. Matter of
Yeah.
fact, you won't even shut the fuck up about it most of the time. But regarding your evolution in that role, because everyone wants to know how to maximize their lead flow, bring their marketing costs down, and get the best bang for their buck. And I think a lot about your experience kind of explains like the value of being innovative and keeping your eyes open for opportunity.
Right.
And that's like a really inspiring kind of story.
Yeah, yeah. So, I went to go work for a tire company in Pennsylvania that, was kind of like stuck 30 years in the past. A lot of the guys had been there for a really long time. They were kind of from like the catalog magazine industry,
Okay.
like that's how they were showing you tires. Whereas I'm coming in there with an iPad and trying to show you different tires
Mm,
and catalogs and things like that. So, I think when I got the opportunity to get into the sales role at the organization, the hungry dog wants the bone, right? And so, like,
right,
I wanted an opportunity to kind of prove myself, especially to the older guys that were with us, to
right.
prove that I could do it.
Now they were doing good, right? Because they were
Yeah,
making money. They were in business for how
yeah,
long already?
they're like 30 years.
30
Yeah,
years.
they had been
Okay.
around for a long time.
Was it kind of like stagnant for a long time?
I think so. I mean, I think that because they had been around for so long, they kind of just had a position in the marketplace.
Mm-hmm.
But it wasn't like they were growing at a tremendous rate.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of it just got to be comfortability. The guy who had owned the company kind of just hit the number that made sense for him, or maybe he hit the output that he was able to hit.
Mm-hmm.
And it just seemed like there was just so much more opportunity out there for us in the marketplace. And I just wanted to try and see if I could get my share of that.
Gotcha, gotcha.
Yeah.
So their opportunity for you was it working with more retail clients or with more businesses?
So I started as an inside sales agent on the wholesale side. So I would answer phone calls for people who were trying to order a set of tires for their clients. Most of our clients were ordering shotgun delivery, which is they order it at 10 o'clock. We get it out the door by 12, 1 o'clock and have it delivered to them by 2, 3 o'clock in the afternoon so that they can service their customers same day.
Hmm. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
And then at some point, you just learned how to do bigger deals
Yeah.
more frequently.
Yeah. So I got tired of, you as a salesman, you get paid commission, right? So it's like, what have you done for me lately? Right?
Mm-hmm.
What
Mm-hmm.
have you done that you deserve more money? And so we were constantly at a battle of the only way to make more money was to answer more phone calls.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So I had just figured there's got to be a better way than just waiting for the phone to ring to make more money. So I started really going and doing a lot of outreach and kind of trying to create processes and systems
Mm-hmm.
to kind of get in front of more people and get a larger share of the
Hmm.
market. And what my boss was doing at the time was he had several different companies he was working on, but one of the things he was doing was selling these large truckloads of maybe 1 to 5 different tire sizes or SKUs to these larger companies. And the dollars is what really interested me. I'm looking at the average price of a tire $70, so the average orders, what, 280.
Mm-hmm.
His orders were $100,000. So all
Right.
I could think in my head is like, man, if I can get $100,000 order, I got to make way more money than I'm making now off of a
Mm-hmm.
$280 order.
Right.
So the thought was like, how do I get there? Because obviously he's doing something to be there and it has to be possible.
It sounds
Okay.
like they only had inbound marketing or inbound lead generation, and then you started like an outbound campaign where you
Well,
would reach out to businesses.
we had outside sales guys, right? But like if they each had 300 accounts that they were managing, as soon as they start bringing in accounts, other accounts start going out the door because they're just not getting in front of them enough.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So, like, our marketing efforts, like I was saying, were so old fashioned. We just didn't have enough total marketing to have digital marketing, paper marketing, and a sales guy to stay in front of people and kind of plug the bottom of that barrel.
Mm. Okay.
So for me, it was like, there's got to be a better way to do this. And there's got to be a way that we can amplify this and create programs and kickbacks and certain things that would keep clients on board long term, really.
So what let's just take it back a little bit really quick. You have that drive, that desire, right?
Yeah.
For improvement, right? What where did you get that from? Like why do you even care? Why are you not sitting there making your 70 to 80 grand a year and happy? I mean, cuz a lot of people aren't even making 70 to 80 grand a year.
Right. Well, I think a few things really. I'm a two-time college dropout, so feel like I have a chip on my shoulder because of that, and I feel like I always had something to prove to people.
Shout out to all our college dropouts
Yeah,
out there.
yeah.
We're with you.
That's the road
Are
to
you a college
success.
dropout?
No.
Oh, oh, all right.
Yeah.
Not no shout out to Sam.
So, I always felt like I had something to prove because by dropping out, I always felt like I was labeled, a loser or a fuck up,
Mm.
So
You wanna prove your path was the right path.
yeah, I just wanted to prove that I had what it took to really take it to the next level. And I also think, where we come from as children really inspire us as well. And my family is a pretty poor background, so
Mm,
we did well, but that car bill that month could be what takes us out, just like every American family these days,
mhm. Right,
like $3,000 probably could have wiped us out when I was a kid. And so I never wanted to be in that situation. I always
right.
wanted something more, and I never knew like how could I get something more. I knew I wasn't interested in school. I knew I didn't want to be a doctor or a lawyer, but I just didn't know how to get there or what to do. So when I had the opportunity to get into sales and make more money, I figured all I have to do is talk to people. Like that's
Mm,
really it. Like I have to talk to people and help solve a
Is that
problem.
all you gotta do? Nothing
Well, you
else?
got to solve a problem, right? Like there's always something, and
mhm.
so you got just have to figure out what that something is. Which usually if you're talking to people and you're having good conversation with them and they trust you, you'll find out what that something is, and you can find a solution to it rather easily.
So one of the things I'm getting from you is what's really important is try to talk to a lot more people and try to do bigger deals so
Oh
far.
yeah.
If you could talk to more people, increase the deal size, that's the path for success.
Yeah, so I love talking to people because you never know what somebody knows or who they are, you know?
Mhm.
And you'd be surprised at like how ordinary people have such impact on our lives.
Yep.
Just things that, whether it's things they say or people they know or places they can put you, it can make a huge impact. And then on the other side of it, I'm a huge Grant Cardone fan.
Mm,
So I always had this mentality of like, hey, if I just make 100K, I'll be okay,
mhm.
And when I got really introduced into Grant Cardone, it was like if you make 100K, you're like not living up to your potential for your family and you're doing a disservice to them.
Mm.
And it was like you need to be shooting for as high as possible, which it's just, something that I've kind of made a change on my life, and I always just shoot for these ridiculous goals just because it's got to be possible, right?
When you were calling people out of the office, you
Yeah.
started like outbound campaigns.
Yeah.
How'd you find the right people to call?
Well, we had a list of customers that we had done business with, and then you have, I started looking at where were the best opportunities and what made the most sense, right? So when you think about it, when you're looking for who's going to buy the most amount of tires, you have to think who has the biggest customer base, right?
Who was that?
Well, originally it was car dealerships because you look at the mom and pop car shop, and sure, they have 4 or 6 bays, but that Mercedes Benz dealership has 40 bays
Mhm.
and they're spending millions on marketing. They're doing TV, they're doing everything, radio,
They were
everything
already
they could.
customers with you guys
Well,
or
they
with that
might
company?
have been, they might not have been. Some were, some weren't. Maybe the guy who's 15 minutes down the road gave us business, but the guy who was 35 minutes down the road didn't really care to give us business because there was somebody else closer to him that came in and saw them all the time and brought them donuts once a month.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like figuring how do I get into that shop? Because if they have 40 bays, if they're paying millions of dollars in marketing, they're going to use lots of tires.
And the way for you to get into their shop was to just undercut prices. primarily?
Well, it was to understand what was important for them. So, like on vehicles, you have what's called original equipment. You get 3 series of it. Not everybody uses the same series. So, this dealership might use Series 1, whereas this dealership might use Series 3. And maybe I only stock Series 1. I'll never get the guy who uses Series 3 to use me because I don't stock what he stocks.
Right.
So when I would understand, okay, that's what you stock. Okay, this is how much you have to pay. If you called me today, how quickly can I get you that tire? Do you have 24 hours or do you need it in 2 hours? What's your need base so that I can meet what your expectation is? And then once we knew what the parameters were, it was like, okay, get with the delivery guys and make sure that they understand these parameters. And when you see an order from this individual, you have 2 hours to get there no matter what.
So it sounds like that's the like when you call sellers of houses,
Right.
that they have a motivation, they have a
Right.
need, that they have a problem that needs to be solved, and this was the need for businesses.
Right.
So their motivation is, I need this type of tire in this quantity.
Yep.
So price wasn't as important.
Well, it depended, right? Like sometimes price could be important to them, but so could service. So if BMW only delivered Tuesday and Friday and it's a Wednesday and they need a tire, they'll overpay because they don't want to wait until Friday to get one tire for a customer. Are they going to overpay $200? No, but will they overpay 7 or 15? Sure,
So
you
you
know.
were able to figure out how much they'd pay, what their needs are, and then you were able to get them as clients because you'd be able to solve the problems that they had and then get it at a price that made sense for them, and they would get rid of whoever their supplier was and go with you.
Or just use us in conjunction with whoever their supplier was. So like once you knew what BMW price was on this tire, that's every tire for every BMW shop.
Right.
So now I know everybody can use it. Then when I'm talking to this guy and building a relationship with him, or if I already had one, I know that BMW nationwide, these 3 are the top sellers. So now I can take that information and go to all of the other BMW shops in the local area and say, hey, I already know these 3 are the hottest. I already know this is what you guys need, and I can provide this service as well. Give me a shot.
How would you find them at that price that they needed it at? And how would you find those exact tires that they needed?
Well, and so that's a kind of another story. So the company that I worked at, the boss that I had, he was young and he had innovation and he saw kind of something that I saw as well was that this 30-year-old business was kind of stuck 30 years ago. So what he did was he created an Amazon store and started selling tires online because he didn't think there were enough people selling tires online.
What year was this?
This was like 10 years ago,
Okay.
probably. So 2014.
Okay.
And like, Tire Rack's the really big online distributor that everybody knows of.
Hmm.
So he had thought, hey, I can sell more tires on there. I don't have to deliver them. I can wrap a label. FedEx will come and they'll deliver them out. So he started creating a network of suppliers for himself and started basically creating an e-commerce business. And that's kind of where I was able to slip in and get more information and find deals and opportunities and start to create inventory stock for our warehouses.
How do you find the deals?
Well, when I know this BMW shop buys 100 of these tires every month, and then nationwide it's the number 2 seller, I started going, well, who nationally on a $1 billion level sells these tires so that I can try and buy them for a cheaper price. And then I could try and buy 1,000 of them from him, knowing that I can get a couple shops to start buying these from me and I can have 90-day inventory
And
available.
why wouldn't BMW buy from them directly?
They do. They do buy from them. But different suppliers do get different pricing, and there is regional pricing as well, right?
Hmm.
And so, like when you think about it, the Ford
Are
F-150,
we talking about the supplier or the manufacturer?
both, right? Because like BMW, so Goodyear doesn't sell to everybody.
Right.
Goodyear will sell to 1 or 2 distributors here in Florida, and then those 2 distributors will send to local distributors, and then those local distributors will distribute amongst what's available, right? So we started going, okay, well, we can't go to Goodyear for that price because they're going to sell it to this big state distributor as well as BMW. So we have to actually go to the BMW guy, or we have to go to the distributor in California
Mhm.
because their price is different in California because they have so many BMWs over there.
Mhm.
They have a really cheap price, and we can essentially not import the tire, but we can take the tire from California and bring it to Pennsylvania.
Mhm.
Nice. That's a freaking hack right there. You said something really important, right?
You look like you're
You
gonna
said
cry.
you said that what's that?
You said you look like you're gonna cry.
Yeah, it's
It's
just
just a touching
it's a very
story.
touching story. I just yawned. So you said something really important earlier, right?
Hmm.
You said that the company had an outside sales team.
Yep.
So they'd make relationships, bring them in, but if you're not touching those relationships, they would drift away, right?
Right.
So it seems like in part you made it your business to touch those existing relationships
Yes.
and actually maximize on it. So that was kind
Yes.
of like follow-up process or a nurturing process to just maximize what was already just in front of everyone, but they just couldn't see it.
Yeah.
Is
Yeah.
that
So
accurate?
yeah, absolutely. So it definitely was a nurturing process and almost like an onboarding process, right? Like everybody wants their stuff quickly. They want to be serviced fast. They don't care how far they are. They want it now, right? It's just like anything in today's day and age. And so understanding people's wants and needs and coming up with realistic expectations was kind of something that the company wasn't doing. They would just get that guy to order. Hey, we'll get that out there to him when we get the chance. He's 3 hours away. That's too far for us to go to today. And instead, it'd be like, I would think, hey, man, that's really far for us. Do you need it today or do you need it tomorrow? You need it today? Cool. Can you give me 4 more tires so that I can actually put gas in the truck to get all the way up there and make it worth it for us? Because I want to get up there for you, but you're really not doing enough to get us up there. And they would understand it. They'd be like, all right, cool. Give me 2 sets then and just deliver it today because I really need it now. And BMW won't be here till Friday, right? Or they won't be here for 2 more days. So I'll do that
You're
solid
talking
for
about a
you
deal,
for a
like a
solid for me.
BMW dealer,
Yeah, right, a dealership.
right?
Or what we would also do is we'd start calling other people around them and saying, "Hey, do you need anything? We're going to head out that way. We want to fill this truck up and we want to make it worth it for us."
Right,
Which before we were just like, "Oh, screw that guy. He can wait till tomorrow when we have more deliveries."
right.
So it was more proactive rather than
It sounds like
reactive.
it's more of a logistical
It
business
definitely
than
was.
selling raw products.
Yeah, 100%. It really was a logistical business for the most part.
Yeah.
Really.
Because it reminds me of trucking.
It is. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it is. I mean, and then when later in my career, that's all I was focusing on was shipments, which
Gotcha.
was a nightmare
So I think
until.
a lot of people are curious, like, so there's all these moving parts, you're finding opportunity. How
Yep.
do they equate that to dollar values?
Well, obviously, the more money you're bringing into the company, the more profit, the more
More
you deserve
commissions?
to get paid, right? And
Sure.
so when my counterparts are doing $250 orders and I'm doing $5,000 orders or $2,000 orders, you could just see the difference between what my profitability for the company was and their profitability was.
Right. So
And then
you're
they started to believe in it.
okay. So you're selling at rates that are a little bit lower than what they're selling at. Is that true?
Well, I would put deals together. Yeah, I'd make it happen. Hey, we're at 90 for this, but if you give me more, I'll do it for 85. I just need the volume to make it worth it and to make it make sense.
Okay.
So
Okay.
it's just
So I
wholesale
would put
tires.
deals. Yeah. Yeah,
It's
it
a
was just
wholesale tire
wholesaling.
shop.
Yeah, it was just wholesaling tires. I was just putting deals together. And my boss, like I said, was younger, so he essentially like let me do whatever I wanted and really trusted me to kind of put these deals and opportunities together and just felt like the risk that I was taking were worth it and paid off.
What was the end result like? What ended up happening with that company and the relationship that you have with them?
Well, so the end result of what ended up happening when I was an inside sales guy is I automatically became the manager of the organization. And then they shipped me up to like the main location. I was at a satellite location at this time. They shipped me up to the main location. And then I started managing everybody and I created all the systems and processes for our inside and outside sales team and all of our marketing efforts. And then from there, I actually took over my boss's larger shipment business and I started handling those transactions rather than the mom and pops and the car dealerships and things like that.
Gotcha. So, I'm going to put you on the spot here,
Yeah.
but can you give everyone an example of your income in your first year and then your income in your best year in that industry.
Okay. So, well, I actually started out stocking tires for them at like $13 an hour. So I don't know how much money that is, but
Really?
let's call it like 30 grand a year.
Mm-hmm.
I think I did
I think it's
that
under
for
that, yeah.
it's probably. I think I did that for like 8 months. My first year in sales, I want to say was about 80,000. And my
Wow.
yeah,
It's a
my
good salary.
yeah, yeah. And my best was over 3.
It's a good salary.
So
So over three,
yeah.
does that like start raising red flags and disclaimers and exclamation points in like the executive eyes?
Well, the after
Executive or IRS?
I
well,
mean,
I was a W-2 employee, so I wasn't able to like hide money or do anything like that, but it did actually raise flags. Um, we had a bank loan, and because I had made as much as I had made, the bank had actually wanted them to fire me.
mm,
Because
Why?
I was too expensive of an employee, and they wanted somebody else to replace me at a significantly lower cost. So
But
instead
how
of
would they replace you if you're a salesperson
with
that
relationships.
correct?
Well, that's why they didn't replace me. They ended up just trying to lower my ability to make income. So they instead of me, I was 100% commission and I got paid once a month, 15 days after the month for the previous month.
Okay.
So what they ended up doing was just giving me $150,000 salary and telling me, we need you to do this for the sake of the company.
Did you
okay.
do it?
I reluctantly, I did it for about 2 years, a year, 2 years. When at that time I was trying to find side opportunities and other things, other ways for
Okay.
me to make money.
Yeah, you want to
Re-
maximize your potential.
Yeah, I just knew I like at that point when I had gone to that high, I already had those relationships and I had things like almost on autopilot at that point, and I was able to shorten my workday significantly. And so it was like, okay, well, if I'm limited to how much money I can make here, I'm really not going to go out of my way and do more business.
Right.
You're going to get the exact business that I currently do. I'll maintain it. You'll continue to pay me. And then the other 6 hours of my day, I'm going to find other ways to make money.
you were limited because they put a cap.
Yeah, they capped me.
What was the cap?
Salary.
Yeah, but what
They
was the
didn't want
cap
me
of
to
the
have the
commission?
commission. They didn't want me to have
Oh,
commission
it's
at
no commission at all.
period.
Oh, it's just
Mm,
150,000 as a salary
150,000, and then it was like
for
year
a
it
salesperson.
was like a year-end bonus, but the year-end bonus was it was like, "Okay, here's 20 grand."
But that makes no sense for a sales individual.
Right. That was the issue.
So they kept that deal until the like end of relationship between you and the company.
Yeah, so at this time, the nephew who had started that e-commerce business purchased the wholesale company from his uncle, and when they did that purchase, created financial issues in the business.
mm,
It really caused stress to the organization, and the organization couldn't keep up with it. And then they ended up buying another building in another business.
Mm-hmm.
And when they purchased that business plus the other wholesale business, it kind of they just got to a point where they were exceeding
They had no money.
their income. Yeah.
Okay.
So that was like, at that point, they were like, dude, we need your business because we'll go bankrupt without it. And we can't pay you more. And you have to just do this and accept this.
So what'd you do?
I did it. I mean, I had been there for 7 years. You know, I
Yeah, but
had,
this is we're talking about the last 2 years that you
right,
spent with them. So the
right.
last 2 years they were just paying you a salary.
Yeah.
you were a young
Really?
stud. How old were you?
Uh,
24, 25?
yeah. Yeah.
Look
And
at
I felt
that.
like I had an opportunity. You know, somebody gave me a chance. I wanted to do right by them. We had 110 employees. So it was like when I heard bankruptcy, I'm like, damn, 110 people are going to be out of jobs,
Mhm.
you know?
So obviously you ended up leaving the company.
Well, so the company so what ended up happening was that e-commerce business ended up selling, and then the wholesale company ended up selling to another company. And when all of those sales happened, my division at that time was essentially shut down.
Okay.
Mm.
Yeah. It wasn't a repeatable business. It was a relationship business, and it wasn't something programmable, right? Like we look for consistency in AI Speakly with monthly payouts. We know what to expect each month. They would never be able to know what to expect because it was all based on where I could source these opportunities from and then
Why
how I
wouldn't
would
the
resell
company
them.
that
Very
bought
active.
Yeah.
why wouldn't the company that bought it just keep the key salespeople?
Well, they did keep the um the consistent business salespeople. Again, like my job was based. So if I had to source tires from Peru and then sell them to somebody in Costa Rica to then sell them to me in the United States for me to then sell to somebody in Texas, they didn't want to do that.
It's
Because
very
is that
innovative.
illegal?
No, well, no, it wasn't illegal. It was a loophole. It was a walk around essentially on
Is
how
it
to do
unethical?
business. I wouldn't say unethical. I would just say it's
You
a
can just keep
loophole.
it real.
I would say it was a loophole that I exploited in the system.
So if it's perfectly legal and not unethical, why wouldn't they just
It
keep it?
sounds like,
It
correct me if I'm wrong,
is
but it sounds
active.
like, yeah, it's a very viral transaction with
Right.
moving parts, hard to measure, extreme ups and
Mhm.
downs from month to
Right.
month, and they're looking for consistency, a process that you can teach to a monkey probably. You
Exactly.
couldn't teach your process to a
Well,
monkey.
no, you couldn't. And so, like, what they wanted me to do is they wanted me to go to your business and say, "You now buy Goodyear from me." That's not what I did. What I did was say, "You buy this tire from me now because nobody will give it to you at a better price." And you bought that one tire from me.
Mhm.
That one tire, we might do $200,000 worth of business a month with, just that one.
Mhm.
And once I have you on that one, now I'm trying to find every other place where I can also put a different tire into your business to get another 100,000 out of you. So it wasn't repeatable, and I didn't have a direct line to Goodyear to sell you that tire. I had to buy that tire from Peru. So it's like once Peru was out of those tires, I no longer had that available to me. Now I need to see if I can find it, but if nobody else in the world has it, I can't continue doing it.
So if you were to give one key lesson that you learned from that 7-year salesperson's career, what would that be?
Oh man.
Just one?
Um
Yeah, just one.
Just one.
shit.
Lewis is gonna give 10,
Uh,
but he said one.
honestly, so at this time I had commission. I guess I wouldn't call it commission breath, right? That's what they call in real estate, like commission breath, where you're like excited about commission. But when my company sat me down after I had done some pretty large transactions as their manager of the sales office, it was like, hey, we have two avenues you can go. You can continue making the same salary you're going to make, zero commissions, and we'll give you X% of the business, or you can be commission only, eat what you kill, and you'll get this much tiered based on how much business you do every month, and you'll hit different tiers. And I was thinking these guys are going to turn this into $1 billion company. We're not even near half a billion yet. So I have plenty of time. I can make a boatload of money. I don't need the equity because I looked at, okay, if I'm a 5% equity owner, it's not like I can just sell those shares or take those shares to the bank or whatever, like it wasn't cash in my hand.
Mhm.
And I didn't want to live off of a $70,000 salary. At that time I wanted nice things. I wanted a, penthouse in the city. Like I wanted different things. So
Lamborghini.
right. So like I kind of went the commission route rather than the equity route at that opportunity, which ultimately ended up, burning me on like $6 million, $7 million
Nice.
probably.
Yeah, drop in the bucket, man.
Yeah.
It ain't nothing.
Yeah.
So
So what's
you
the lesson though?
Take the equity
Take the
and
equity
ask for
at all
more.
times.
Take the equity and ask for more.
So let me ask you this. Did you believe in that equity at that time?
No, it was so minuscule. It didn't, it like,
Was it 5%?
Did you even calculate it?
it was like 4%, 3 or 4%. And well, it was hard to calculate it because when you're saying I can't pay you a certain amount of money because the company isn't doing well. I'm like, well, then why would I take equity in something that isn't doing well? You
That
know what
makes
I mean?
sense. That makes sense.
And it was like, I believe that you guys can turn the ship around, but like I'm at your whim to turn the ship around. And then at the same time, if you're already having difficulty making ends meet, what do I really get? Am I just going to make 70 grand for the next 2 years? Like I was young and I didn't know, am I going to make 70 grand for 2 or 3 years and this place is going to go bankrupt and I'm out? Or can I make 200 grand for the next 2 or 3 years? And if they go bankrupt, they go bankrupt. It is what it is.
Right.
So that was kind of like my thought process with it.
So the company sells, you
Yeah.
miss out on $6 million.
Yeah.
What's your next move?
I came down to Florida. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I just started new.
And what'd you get into?
So I took
And how did you choose to come to Florida? Why not Texas?
so my girlfriend and I visited Florida, and when we left Philly that day, it was like sleeting. It's kind of like an ugly day out. I swear to you, I lived in this
Zombies out there.
really nice, yeah, I lived in this really nice area. And like literally across the street, like Flyers players lived in the building across the street, like really nice area. As we walked out of our door, I had to step over a homeless man to get to my car.
Nice.
Right, and
Mm.
so
Was the guy on crack?
oh, yeah, he's on all the things. So, when I got to Florida, I was like, "Damn, it's, like, sunny here." We, like, got to her parents' house and like, "Hey, you guys wanna go to the beach?" And I'm like, "Go to the beach?" It was just, like, raining and sleeting back home, and we're in the city, you're saying we can go to the beach? And then we, like, rode our bikes over to the beach, and I was like, "Shit, this is really cool, like, I like this." And so even though I missed out on a big payout, they kept me on board for a year as a consultant. So I
Mhm.
basically had a job. So it was like, hey, Bonnie, if you can get a job down here, she's a nurse. I mean, she had a job before we even got back on the plane. But if you can get a job down here, we could move down here and kind of like start a different life and like try something new and different for ourselves.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Get out of Philly and, see what else is out there and what's available. So it kind
Nice.
of felt like a good time to do so. And
So you had a job, you moved down here to
yeah,
Florida.
yep.
What'd you get into? What did you
So
start another side hustle? Just start
I
going to tire companies here and trying to get a job with them?
I can't no, I can't so part of my agreement was that I wouldn't sell tires afterwards for 2 years.
Okay.
So I didn't go back into selling tires. I stayed, working on the relationships that I had created there for another year and kind of passing things off. And then, I took a job at a air conditioning company, one of
Okay.
the largest air conditioning companies in the country. I took a job with them, and really, it was just income based for me. Like the guy that I spoke to,
What was the job?
you would sell air conditioning systems to residential individuals.
Sounds logical in
Um,
Florida.
right, well, and that's what I thought. I'm like,
Good
it's always
choice.
hot. Like everybody wants air conditioning, and the payouts were crazy.
What were the payouts?
You could make $6,000 off of an air conditioner, and these guys were selling. The guy in my office was one of the top selling guys, but he was making four and $500,000 a year. There was a guy in Texas making $1 million a year just selling air
Mm.
conditioners as a salesman
Why were the payouts so high?
because we were exploiting our customer base essentially.
Be more
He was
specific. What
servicing
that
them
what
well
that
for
We
a
means.
premium
serviced
price.
so yes. So we serviced our clients extremely well for a very premium price and tied them into contract agreements, um, which I didn't necessarily agree with. So I only ended up staying there for about 10 months just because it didn't resonate with me
Sounds like it was
enough to keep me
uncomfortable.
going. Yeah, I mean, like you would go to an old lady's house at 2 o'clock in the morning on a Thursday, and her house, the
Afternoon
therm
or morning?
in the in the morning because we would be on call. You would be
Oh,
on
okay.
call 1 week out of the month because there were several of us. So you'd be on call 1 week out of the month, and poor grandma's calling with her air conditioner out. You had to run out there and go do it. Um, and so you would get there and you'd be like, it's 93 degrees inside of this lady's house. She's 80 years old. And the two options that I have available, she's been using us for 40 years. The two
Mhm.
options I have available are expensive in my eyes. And I know on her fixed income are expensive. And it didn't feel right with me trying to charge these uh, high prices for something that I
What is a
thought
high
was,
price? Can you give me numbers as to how
yeah.
much the AC would cost?
So this was before COVID.
Okay.
So you have to remember, like, before now we buy air conditioners for our properties and they're like 5, 6 grand.
By the way, I think you need to bleep out the word COVID because then
Yeah, that
we'll get shut down.
could be. But right now we buy an air conditioner for 5 or 6 grand. Back then we could have bought them for 3 or 4 probably. We were selling to our customers, the cheapest they could get was like 12,000, right?
Mhm.
And then we would go all the way up to 25 or $30,000.
Mhm.
One
And
unit.
Did you just say
one unit.
$30,000 for an AC?
Yes, absolutely.
Was it made out of gold?
No. So
Did it print
realistically,
money?
that was kind of what bothered me, right? Is that like the energy efficiency that was priced into why it was worth so much wasn't enough of a savings to justify. So,
Hmm.
like, maybe you would save $15 on your electric bill, but you're going to pay $14,000 more for that air conditioner to save $15
Good
a
deal.
month.
What's
Right.
the difference
It's a
between a
price for our
30
services.
what's the
Right.
difference between a $30,000 AC and a $5,000 AC?
The efficiency in which it draws electricity and how it dehumidifies your home.
And that's it.
And the quality,
You
I'm
can't
sure.
buy it. So
They're kind of all the same, right? And so like
Really?
that's where I go into what I was saying. So a single stage motor is going to be your cheapest. It's either on or it's off, right? So it's either removing humidity from your house or it's not removing humidity from your house. And then you have a dual stage motor, which it runs at a lower level, uses less energy, but it runs for a longer time. So it dehumidifies your home for a longer time. The most important feeling that we have inside of our home isn't necessarily being cold, it's being comfortable.
Mm.
And typically you have comfort when you have less humidity in the air, right?
but you can still buy dual stage ACs for like
So the
$6,000.
$30,000 system had 65 stages. So it could ramp all the way down to its lowest level of working and essentially run all day long and dehumidify all day long, which in return would make you feel comfortable. So like right now how there's like no air in this room, we're all uncomfortable. Realistically, it's probably 74 degrees. If the air was being dehumidified from the room, we would all be comfortable. So that was essentially the
So
thought
it
process
sounds
for
like
that
it's a
system.
very smart solution, and
Right.
you can't just buy a dehumidifier for your house,
Exactly. You
right?
could just literally buy a $150 dehumidifier and have the exact same thing.
Mm.
Right.
Okay. So you stayed
That was sarcasm. I don't know if
Is it?
Yeah.
you didn't understand it.
It's tough.
No. I'm catching up though. I'm getting there. So this is interesting. You've been there for 10 months,
Yeah.
and you probably made a decent coin, right?
Yeah.
Decent amount of money.
Yeah. I mean, in my first year, I had already made 150,000 like 9 or 8 months in, and I was just waiting on payouts.
You had a sales bug.
Yeah.
You had a sales
Oh,
bug.
yeah, yeah,
You
yeah,
went
yeah.
into sales in the tire company, then you caught on with Grant Cardone and you saw opportunities and you're selling, you're crushing it, you're making all types of money. Then
Yeah.
you come in and you go for a sales job when you get down to Florida. Is there a reason you keep going into sales?
Well, with having no degree, nobody else would hire me.
Oh shit. So
I had no other skill sets, right? Like,
You can
um,
apply to jobs and say you have a degree. I am yet to find one employer that's going to verify that.
no, I agree, but like, I never really thought about it, and there wasn't anything that like really interested me. Like, I didn't
sure.
know what I wanted to do. The
Must
only
seems
thing I knew is
ethical,
I
man.
wanted money. Like I wanted cash, I wanted money, and I wanted to actually really just get property. That was kind of
Right.
like the goal was like just get property because property will
So
end up
once you
paying.
stop taking advantage of grandmas, what was the
Yeah.
next move?
So the next move was to get my real estate license.
Okay.
So I got my real estate license. It's funny, like that real estate exam is like 67 hours. I did it in like 25.
Like
Um,
online or something?
yeah, yeah, yeah. I did the online. I literally just hit skip the whole way through. And then when you'd get to the questions, I would answer the questions. And then whatever questions I failed, I would just review. And then I would just retake the test until I passed it.
Mm,
And I just did that all
How
the
many
way
times did
through.
you take the test?
One time. I took the state exam. I took the proctor exam once and the state exam once, and I passed both of them first try. Yeah.
nice.
Yeah.
Okay. Did
Is
you
it because you're a genius or it's just an easy test?
I think it's a lot of common sense and math, and I like math. And I think once I failed enough and memorized the common sense parts, it kind of just came into place.
wait, you said you took both tests one time, but you failed a bunch? Where
So
did you
you would
fail?
take these like
He's talking about
quizzes.
practice
Yeah, so
tests.
you would take like a
Oh,
chapter, like chapter one quiz in order to get to the next part. So I would take that quiz and just go to the
mm,
next part. I
and
wouldn't
you
read, I
ultimately
wouldn't
get
study
to a
any of it.
final.
And
Yes.
then when you get to the final of the
Mm,
online class, you have to pass that test in order to go to the state exam. If not, you have to like retake certain things in order to redo it.
that
I
makes
passed it
sense.
that first time. Then I went to do my state exam and I passed that the first time and I had my license. And
Gotcha. So you had a couple of sales roles, you did
yep,
really well, and you had the real estate bug that's always been lingering, so you
yep,
decided to get into real estate.
yeah.
Why did you think that you need a license?
Um, Well, I had heard of wholesaling at this time, but again, being
Had
a
or
bit
had
I
not?
had, being a g big Grant Cardone fan and, like, always looking for, like, side hustles and shit, like, so I had already heard of wholesaling. I just didn't think it was, like, practical. I think the same way everybody says when they get into wholesaling, like, it just didn't make sense.
Right.
So it didn't seem like a practical option to me. And then on the other side of it, I wasn't sure how to like run or conduct that business or how to do it. And I know there's a ton of stuff online, but there's a ton of information on everything online, right? Like there's a ton of stuff on affiliate marketing. Doesn't mean I would feel necessarily just getting into affiliate marketing willy nilly. So I felt like by getting my license, it verified that I had the credentials to get into real estate and I could learn how to get into different avenues of real estate at that point once I had that. And I felt like at that point I also had a good foundation to be able to figure out how to wholesale, what makes sense, what are good deals, how to work with people, desirable areas, things like that.
Okay. So you got your license and then you went into retail real estate?
Yeah. Yeah. So being that I was driving her all over this, area, um, doing AC appointments, I saw these billboards everywhere. So I ended up going with a company that I had always saw advertising and marketing. And then being a big social media guy, they had a really big social media presence. So I joined a team kind of to like fast track my success and kind of fast track the learning curve that most people face and come up against.
What's the difference between a team or a traditional brokerage?
So, like at a traditional brokerage, nobody's really teaching you what to do or how to do it. I mean, they do give you lessons and things similar to what you can find on YouTube, right? But nobody's like holding your hand through that process, really. And you have a lot more freedom to do the things that you want to do and how you're going to do them. The other big thing on being individual is like, where do you get your leads from? Right? And so, like, I had only been here for a year. I didn't know anybody in Jacksonville. I didn't have any friends. I didn't know where to meet any of these people at or anything. So my thought was like, okay, if I join a team, they'll provide leads, they'll provide training, they'll hold my hand through these processes, and then I'll get more at bats. And the more at bats I get, the more chances I can have to hit home runs.
Why wouldn't everybody just join teams then?
Pride.
Okay.
People have a lot of pride and they don't want to admit that they need to learn, that they need to take a back seat sometimes.
But how do they take a back seat just because they're being taught something?
Well, you
Because I
can't
think it
you can't
probably
be the
just has
smartest
it
person in the
has to
room
do with the
always.
money. Because just people just see dollar signs and they're
Yeah,
like, "You're gonna take more of my commission? I don't wanna work with you."
100%. So it's funny you say that. So like I know people who didn't join the team that I was on because it was a 50-50 split plus a little extra afterwards. So people were like, "Oh, I don't want to lose 50% of my money." But that same person sold 3 houses the entire year, and what you look at what they made over the entire year, you're like, "Okay, you made $27,000 and you kept 100%. That's phenomenal." I kept 50% and made 150. What would you rather have? 27,000 or 150? Do you want half of a watermelon or 100% of a grape?
Sounds like a lot of people want 100% of a grape.
Yeah. I mean, 80 something percent of real estate agents fail,
Yeah,
right?
they're tripping over dollars to save nickels. They're thinking
Right.
about the 50% giving it all away.
Right.
It happens a lot. It
Yeah.
happens a lot. But the thing is, the beautiful thing about the team aspect of things is the learning experience, and they're totally missing that, right? It's
Right.
an invaluable experience.
Well,
Right.
what was your experience, and then how would you do with a team?
So my experience was kind of difficult at first, right? So I was so used to selling businesses that I didn't know how to sell people. Right? And
Mm,
I was like, "Hey, you were looking for a house, you want a pool. Here's a house with a pool in this area. It's a shitty house. It's ugly. That's really the only reason it's available right now because at that time, remember, after the big C,
that was your sales
everything went
pitch.
haywire. No, that wasn't necessarily my pitch, but
Uh,
my pitch would be like, "Hey, look, you could buy this, put that $20,000 worth of work into it, and you'd have 50K in equity by doing so. So I think this is the right move for you." And they'd be like, "But Sally's bedroom is 3 feet shorter than we want it to be." And I'd be like, "Fuck Sally. She's 11. It doesn't matter what she wants. It matters what you can afford. And this is what you can afford. And this is what makes the most sense. And you're getting equity." and then they would go and buy something stupid, you know, for Sally, and then they'd be complaining about how they weren't happy afterwards. And I just was like, man, I don't understand this. So my first month, I had to like figure out how to work with retail buyers and retail individuals.
What was the switch? What was the secret to working with retail individuals?
So we made phone calls together, and the girls always did really well, but they faked it so much. Like everything, every time they were on the phone, it was like, "Hi, oh my god, da, da, da," like to the
So is that
craziest
what you
extent.
started doing?
So I started like not necessarily doing that, but just like really like, oh my gosh, man, I'm so excited to help you find this house. This is going to be awesome. And you like almost like fakely, which didn't resonate for me because it wasn't so much based off of the numbers of what made sense. It was more like based off of this like circus act that I
Is
had to
that what
do.
you did?
So I did the circus act, yeah. So my first month was rough, but my next like 90 days, I think I had like 17 contracts in 90 days.
Wow, how'd you do that? Just by faking your way through?
Well, I think that I learned how to communicate with people the way that they wanted to be communicated, not the way that I wanted to communicate with them. And so I was able to start finding their needs, and I was able to start understanding their needs and wants regardless of financials, and kind of putting that aside and start focusing on, let me just solve their problem. And as long as I solve their problem, if they're not happy afterwards, it's not my problem. Right.
So if someone's gonna join a team,
Yeah.
what do you think is the right amount of time frame to work with the team?
Your hand, Sam.
Oh,
Okay. The right amount of time frame to work with the team to learn whatever they have to learn before they can attempt to go out on their own. It's probably different for everyone, but
I,
there's got to be an
yeah.
average number in there.
So I think once you get to about 30 transactions, I think you've done enough to really understand what's going on out there. 30 I mean, so first off, most real estate agents do 1 to 2 transactions their first year. Year 2, they do typically under 10,
Hmm.
right? And so if you're doing 30 in 1 year, you're getting 2, 3, 4 years of experience under your belt. And at that point, you have a pretty decent understanding of what's going on
You're
around
like
you.
a G at that point,
Right, right. And
right?
so the hardest part is the stuff that you're not thinking of, that you're completely unaware exists.
Mm,
That's the hard part, right? Because you're so involved in your own world, you don't realize that there are other pieces in the background running to
right.
allow you to do these things.
So you're talking about like if you attempt to go out on your own, you learn sometimes the hard way about those other moving parts.
Yes.
What are those other moving parts?
Well, so at the company I was at, we had transaction coordinators. The moment
They'll
you
spoil your ass.
oh my god, the moment you sign the contract, I almost didn't have to talk to you anymore
Hmm.
because she took care of it. And then all of the title work and all of the background things was her responsibility in doing,
Mm,
right? And I could just then go back out there and sell again and just
yep,
focus on selling.
what
yep.
about the lead flow?
Well, I had unlimited leads, so I wasn't thinking about lead flow. I had unlimited
You
leads.
didn't have to get them generated. They were
Right,
just
I didn't have to
coming in your
generate them. They were
direction.
they
So
were
they
flooding
generate the
my
leads for
pockets.
you.
Right, and they were generating the leads for me, which is something I knew I had to do because I'm like, okay, I have to figure out how to generate leads. That's one thing, but it was never like I have to figure out this back end process. It was more like, well, I guess I have to hire somebody who already knows that back end process
Hmm.
rather than figuring it out. And then just like different admin things and day-to-day finance, accounting things that you're just not thinking of.
Hmm.
Now, I mean, what did we have to put up the other day? Like a safety HR document in the office. Like that's not something you're thinking of when you're a real estate agent. Like, okay, if I hire people, I'm going to have to put up documents in the office to conduct a safe working place.
You
Right.
guys read
You
the
know what I
book
mean?
The E-Myth?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, so in the E-Myth, he says that there are three types of business owners or three qualities of a business owner, which is a technician, a
Hmm.
manager,
And a vision.
and an entrepreneur.
Hmm.
So it seems like most people, especially real estate agents, are just technicians, but it seems like it's a business because
Hmm.
they're on their own, they're self employed, but at the end of the day, they're just technicians.
Right.
who are just making money by their skill,
Mhm.
and they're not thinking about management, and they're not thinking about what's the vision. And
or how
those
to
are
scale.
so it seems like those are the two things that are missing.
Well,
The
and yeah,
technician exists,
yeah.
but the manager and the entrepreneur, they don't have those qualities yet.
To the fullest extent. I mean, in their opinion, they're an entrepreneur, right? But they're not thinking like
I mean, their opinion
you're
doesn't matter.
I mean more so like they're thinking, "Oh, I own my own business. I do this. I make 400K a year." But what they're not thinking of is go away for a year and how much money do you make?
Correct. Zero.
Right. You don't show up to work, you make $0.
Correct.
So it's really not a business, right?
So
And that's what
how
they're
long
missing.
did you spend there, and how many transactions have you done?
Um, Retail or total?
Retail.
Um, uh, Probably now closer to like 70 ish, I would say. Total
In what amount of time?
transactions, I would say closer to like over 100. And I was at that company for about 2 years. Now, the first year I really focused on retail. I got paid I mean, I like looked over my numbers at the end of the year and I was like, this doesn't make sense for me. I have to find another solution. So the next year, I continued to taking the income that I was receiving, but I started focusing on building simple sell with you and wholesaling properties, which was much more what I was interested in and much more natural for me to do. Because I could go
Nice.
back to businesses and talk about the things that we both cared about.
How did that transition happen, and what made you go into it?
You, you did. So we were in the office and I think people flocked to me naturally in that office for like leadership and mentorship kind of. Um
You were a top performer.
Right. And well, and I was really interested in investments and other things, but
Right.
yes, being a top performer, I think I was definitely looked at that way. So people came to me and somebody that I respected very well, Kim Chase, came to you about a rental property that you were going to help her with one of her clients or whatever. And I overheard and started talking to you, and we had started talking about like wholesaling, and it was something that I'm like, okay, like I do know about this obviously, but like I've never done it. I'm not familiar with it, and nobody was going to show me how to do it. So you had actually like sent me an opportunity or a deal, and I knew somebody who could buy that deal, and we just made a spread in between the what we could get it for and what he would pay for it. And once we did that transaction and you showed me the paperwork and I was like, so it's the same thing essentially. I was like, well, what am I doing? Like the light switch just hit like why wouldn't I always do this? And if I can find these opportunities, there's a million people lined up at waiting for these opportunities because they're either too busy doing what they need to do in order to make money or they don't know how to find the opportunity. So they'll pay for them in return.
So it was like wholesaling tires.
Right. It went back to wholesaling tires, which I really enjoyed and liked.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you liked the business aspect and the acumen of the wholesale world because it was investments and it had
Right.
to do with numbers versus retail doesn't have anything to do with it, and it's all about building the relationship with the client and making sure that they get the home that they want and
Right.
finding their needs, and their needs always differ because for some people it's kids bedrooms, for some people it's countertops, and so
Right.
on.
Right. And like at the end of the day, for me, it was like, does it make dollars? Does it make money? Does it make sense? Cool, let's move forward. If it doesn't, then it didn't entertain it for me. So I much rather the investment side of things than the
Do you
retail
like the fact
emotional
that you
side.
got a retail background and foundation and then jumped into investments?
Definitely. I mean, I think that it gave me a different perspective, um, as well as an understanding of the marketplace at a retail level, so that when you're at that wholesale investment level, you kind of understand why they differ so much and the importances in between the two, right? Like I bought my house based off of an investment that an investor made in my neighborhood. He purchased 10 homes cash. And I said, well, if you're buying 10, obviously I should buy one. Why are you buying 10? Well, there's two schools coming here, there's a hospital coming here, and there's 60 businesses coming to this street. Well, you obviously know way more than I do. So why try and reinvent the wheel? I'm just going to follow your path and buy a house there. If you just bought 10, I'll buy one, right? It's like it just like made sense in my head.
Follow the
Whereas,
money.
right, like other people would be like, well, there's no Starbucks nearby, so I don't want to live there. I don't give a shit about Starbucks. Like, I care about what is it going to do in return for me long
You
term.
don't know about the Starbucks index?
Well, I know. So I do live in between two Starbucks, but that's besides the point.
Nice. Nice. So now you're making this transition into starting and growing a wholesale business with
Yep.
Sam.
Yep. Yeah. Well, and you as well. Yeah.
Before I'm coming along, actually.
Well, yeah. And so
Because you
Sam and
guys
I
were
had
together
started
for how long prior to me coming along?
since 22.
Close to a year, right?
Yeah, since 22 we started. Um, I think we organized in April of 22. Um, and it was like, all right, how do we do deals? How do we make more money? Like, I think the goal was like we just both wanted to make a $500,000 a year.
You know what's cool? Do you guys think that, in hindsight, the title of this podcast made sense for your guys' approach with leads?
Yeah, yes. Yeah.
Why?
Well, we didn't necessarily have like inbound lead flow. I
Okay.
guess technically it was, but not really. Our lead flow is really based off of relationships and
Yep.
finding diamonds in the dirt, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we did a handful of direct to seller. We didn't do any marketing, period.
Right.
Well, we did some direct to seller
So
deals,
the
and
way
then
Now, when you
most
say
was like
relationships,
Facebook
the
and
way it
relationships.
was, basically, Lewis has been hemorrhaging me to get into a partnership
Yes.
so that we could start wholesaling houses.
Yeah.
And then
does it take a lot to convince him to do anything?
Months and lots of money.
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
So I don't like to go into partnership with almost anybody.
Okay.
And like after months and months of like talking and doing deals, and we've done deals like even before the company was incorporated or anything like that. So finally, I was like, cool, let's make the leap. I'm ready. I think you're the right person for me to build the business with. And
Did you guys have the rings ready and stuff?
no, not yet.
Working on
So
that.
he came, and we would work out of my apartment.
Yeah.
So at the time, I just had an apartment. I was living all by myself. So he would just come, we'd sit down in my kitchen and then just work out
We
of
just
there.
make calls. Yeah.
Yes, and
See
make
what we could put
calls.
together.
So he came one day and then we sat down and we were like, okay, let's put together the business plan as to what's going to be the next actionable step and how we're going to make more money and how we're going to make this consistent.
Yeah.
At the time, I already almost had all the cold outreach avenues covered, like cold calling, door knocking, even mailing people,
When you say
Driving for
cover, like you had
dollars.
experience
driving
with
for
it?
dollars. Yes,
He was
I've done
doing it.
all of it and I've pretty much gotten a deal out of every one of those channels.
Okay.
And I didn't like them.
Right.
So I started telling Lewis, I'm like, what we need to do is we need to come up with a unique approach that nobody else out there is doing.
Mhm.
And he was like, fuck that. How many deals have you done? And I'm like, I've done 15 deals. And I was like, I've done 15 deals. So he's like, we're going to do exactly what you've been doing. And he's like, how much money have you made with those 15 deals? And I was like, well, each deal was $5,000 to $12,000
Yeah.
approximately. So I was like, well, I've made close to $100,000. And then he was like, well, we're going to do exactly that. And then we're going to triple or quadruple or, 5x that.
Yeah.
Mhm. Take the proven
Correct.
model.
It
He wanted the
works.
proven model. I wanted something else.
Yes.
But I saw the logic, so I was like, cool, I'm okay with that. We can just take the proven model.
Yeah.
So we just kept pulling lists, cold calling,
Door knocking.
driving for dollars.
I mean, this kid's essentially knocked every house, swear to you, every door in Springfield, even at a quadplex, he's probably knocked all 4 of those doors. Every single door in Springfield at least 5 times.
Okay.
And I mean, like, this was like in a summer. I mean, people knew him by first name walking down the street because he had knocked on the door so many times.
Yeah. So I mean, it worked. I got deals out of it. So,
Yeah.
and then we started doing it together, and for some reason, it started not working. So we weren't getting a lot of deals. Like we got 1 or 2 deals out of cold calling. And granted, we weren't even cold calling with VAs. We
Just
were
ourselves.
your hand. We were cold calling ourselves initially. So we didn't even hire a VA. We'd just pull a data set from PropStream, raw people, prospects, not leads, and then we would just hand dial
Do
them.
all prospects suck too?
Prospects suck even more. So we chopped up the days. I was like, I'm gonna call in the morning, you're gonna call in the evening, and then these days you're gonna call in the evening, and I'm gonna call in the morning, and so on. But we weren't getting deals out of it. And then, um, people started bringing deals to Lewis. So other agents that he knew in the industry that he's
Mm.
done deals with in the past,
Yeah.
they started bringing deals to him because, I mean, when you put yourself out there, hey, I'm looking for investment
Yes.
opportunities, I'm looking for this or that. They just started bringing him those opportunities.
Right.
Yeah.
So as soon as they started bringing him those opportunities, I started putting them together, negotiating them, getting with the sellers, getting them under contract. And then it was a really good get lead flow.
Yeah.
But much like, he was describing, it was all relationship
Right.
based.
Yep.
So it's not a consistent business, but those leads don't suck.
They
Mm.
didn't suck as
Well,
Those
much.
let me
because
ask you
they're not
this.
leads, they're layups.
Well,
Yes.
let me ask you this. Even with the layups, what do the numbers look like? I don't know if you really track the numbers, but if you had to even guess, like you're gonna get people bringing like properties to you guys for potential investment
Yeah.
purposes, wholesaling, whatever. And what do the numbers look like? You're gonna actually contract or close one out of how many?
We were closing we had closed almost every deal that we had done. I think we maybe in a year time frame only had one cancellation.
All right, but prior to that, I'm saying someone's bringing you an opportunity
Yeah.
and you tell them, listen, we need this at 80.
Yeah.
They might not get it at 80, right? So that didn't turn into a deal.
That's the problem. They were not the ones getting it. To bring the opportunity, we're the ones
We're
getting
the
it.
ones getting it. And so what a
Okay.
lot of the times what they
So
would do
even in
is
that case,
it would
how
s
many didn't turn into a contract?
there were plenty. I
So it's
mean, it was probably like
one out of five,
1
one
out
out of
of
10
3 would be a contract, maybe even
for
2 out
you?
of 3 would
Yeah,
be a
1 out of
contract.
3.
Yeah, because so here's the deal, right? Like people would reach out to an agent, they'd find an agent, they'd have a relationship with the agent would go, "Hey, this is a POS, it's a POS." They would agree, right? But the price of that person paid 10 years ago for that home versus what was happening in the marketplace, they were already getting more than what they had paid, right? So they
Mhm.
were actually like if they paid ridiculous. Let's just say they paid 80,000 for a house. We could give them 120, no doubt, because it was worth so much more. So it wasn't that hard to fight those people necessarily, and they knew that what they had wasn't necessarily the best.
Here's the
Um,
other thing I want to
and they
point out.
had that relationship with the agent, which allowed us to come in.
So
Okay.
no agent understands from the get-go how investments should be underwritten.
Right.
If you go get a retail education and you're a real estate agent, you don't know shit about how to underwrite deals and what numbers you should be buying them at or selling them at or any of that. You don't know
Hmm.
anything about investments.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And
If
what
you
would
don't
happen
practice it.
is they would bring deals to him. He would bring it to me. I'd be like, here's what you have to buy it at. Here's what you need to invest in that property. Here's what you'd sell it for. And then here's the holding costs that
Right.
you're going to incur for that particular deal. And then here's the number we need to get it at so we can make the
So are
spread.
you simultaneously educating these agents?
So
Yes. I
I
would
would
do that.
educate him, and then he would educate agents because I don't have any patience to educate
Right.
them. I
Mm.
just basically tell him, dude, you're
You're
way
wasting my
off. Yeah,
time.
you're
Yeah.
wasting my time. He would go and educate those people, and that's why,
So that taught you a lesson, actually,
I
I would
mean,
assume.
It did.
yeah,
Yeah, I was the relationship guy and he was the numbers guy.
correct. So he would talk to them, and then they would start bringing you less shit.
Hmm.
So the deals that didn't make sense, they would just stop
Yeah.
wasting his time too, because now they're educated and they know how to differentiate a deal from not a deal.
Right.
So
Okay.
that's why it was 1 out of 3 close
Yeah.
rate. It
Or
wasn't necessarily
probably
because
higher
every
too.
deal that comes across our table we can close. It's just because he's able to create an extra filter, whereas they filter the shit and then they bring him things that make sense.
Right.
Cool, cool.
Yeah.
And then, so you guys did a good amount of deals last year, haven't you?
Yeah.
We did
And
a fair
just
amount.
you two, a lot of them were through relationships.
Yep.
Would you say under $1 million in assignments?
It was yeah, it
Yes.
was just shy.
It was about $650,000
Was it?
between the 2 of us.
Now we
That's
did bring in
fucking
significantly
outrageous.
more. We did bring in over 8, but we did pay out agents who would bring us those deals. So we paid out like $250,000 in fees. I
That's
Yeah, yeah.
think,
insane.
right?
I mean, gross, it was more,
Yeah.
Sure, sure, sure. Yeah,
but,
Yeah.
like, net assignments that,
Yeah. He
you know
loves his net.
Yeah.
but gross, it was like 840, and we, like he said, we probably paid out about a quarter million in fees to lead fees.
Wow. So it sounds like you guys gravitated toward working with the relationships and you let go of all of those other processes that you initially were working on.
Well,
No.
we did hire a VA.
Okay.
No.
We did try and do pay per click. We
Okay.
hired a VA, but it was hard because we weren't able to manage them as well as we
Yeah.
wanted to. He was building a house. I was still doing listings. I was still like working with the sales team and everything. So it
If
was
they
like,
don't get managed, they'll perform like shit.
right. So we were just like, we had difficulty with that. Then it was like, okay, well, we can't manage him. So let's text. But then with all the texting laws, texting became difficult. You couldn't batch text. You had to like click the button in order for it to auto generate different text and different keywords and things. And then, you would wait for response. You do 150 in 1 minute, and then you'd wait for responses, and it might take an hour. But then by that point, you're already on to something else, and you weren't sitting there waiting for those responses. So we just weren't successful with that. And then towards the end, we were like, okay, we don't have the time to sit and make phone calls. We don't want to necessarily manage somebody else to make these phone calls. Why don't we try digital and have these people reach out to us, which is like, this was like our last ditch effort for marketing before we were like, okay, maybe we just go agents and stay focused
Mm-hmm.
on that,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like our goal, like I said, was to make $500,000 a year between the two of us, just, work the way we needed to work, not serious, not structured. Like we didn't start at 9 a.m. or anything. We just got together by noon and then
Mm-hmm.
did business, right?
Yep. Yep. Yep.
And so we were like, okay, let's try pay per click, and then like let's systemize so we can start scaling.
Yep.
Let's bring people in, let's start making departments. Like let's not be this, let's not be the mechanics in this business.
Right.
Right. And so then we started pay per click, which was decent, but it was expensive and costly, as everybody knows.
It's very expensive to do it in a local market, obviously.
Right. Right. And so we
We're
were
paying like
paying,
$700 per lead
and that was
comes
just
in.
for the clicks, not even for management and all the other things, right? So it was definitely higher. And we really didn't get the results that we were looking for.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's kind of like where you had come into the picture when we were working out of the garage,
Was
right?
that a
Like
conference room?
It was a
conference room,
garage.
garage, whatever you want to call it. But
Okay.
one of those two, right?
It was GG,
Yeah,
Gary's Garage.
yeah, Gary's garage. Um, and that's kind of where you started like sending us leads and opportunities from your cold callers.
Yep.
And that's kind of where we were like, okay, like how do we systemize this and start figuring this out? And how do
The
Well, you
natural,
guys got a couple or few leads from it, right? I mean,
right?
deals
yeah,
from it.
yeah,
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah. That
we
was
got
awesome.
several deals out of it. And
it
one
was
didn't
more
work
than a
out, but we
couple.
got, yeah, we did get a big one. We
Was it
got
like
Ida out of it,
It's
the
probably
property we have.
right?
4 deals that we closed.
So what was interesting is, right, so I sent a lot of leads to I think that because Sam and I met back up. We knew each other lightly over the years.
Right.
And then we met back up at a meeting at Gary's brokerage, kind of like a grand opening of his new building that he purchased.
Yep.
And I think I had as many as 12 listing appointments the following week from drumming up with the VAs and all that stuff. And then all of the agents were asking, like a lot of agents were asking for leads,
Right.
right? And then something went off in my head. It was like, I'll just give out all of these listing appointments to agents.
Yeah.
I'll get something out of it and I'll just convert this to a referral business. It's kind of a little bit more of what I wanted to do anyway.
Right.
And then I just so happened to give leads in your guys' direction also. And you guys were working out of the conference room. I mean, garage converted,
Right.
conference room. And that's when we started making the transition. But something happened shortly thereafter.
Right.
You guys
Yeah.
brought something to my attention.
Yeah. So
And you almost kept it for your little evil selves.
no, we just didn't know how to like present it
I got you.
necessarily,
I got you.
because it was so different. And it was like, I think I had the vision of what I thought it could be, or what I
Mm-hmm.
thought I wanted it to be, but I had no idea how to put it together. And I don't think I was able to explain it and well enough for Sam to really figure it out either. I think it kind of really took all three of us to like really put it down.
Mm-hmm.
But essentially, like a buddy of mine, we had been talking about AI
I
a
think
ton.
I want to do this
Yeah.
instead of revealing what it was. Let's leave it for the next podcast.
Okay, well, I think this is gonna be a two-part podcast as it is, because we're about an hour and 40 minutes in.
I think
Yeah.
that's fine
I think it's fine too.
Yeah.
But again,
because about 10 minutes was cut out and then
hours.
yeah,
Okay.
Okay, do we
Yeah.
touch on it at all? Do we at least say what it was or no?
I think we shouldn't just
Okay,
leave it for the
cool.
Okay.
Cool.
next series.
Okay.
So we can at least say that we had a revolution of leads to deals going,
Yeah.
and we made a conversion into something that's becoming really, really fruitful. And
Yeah.
we'll talk to you guys about that really soon. And they probably, anyone that's following us probably knows exactly what it is. But
Yeah,
for
I would
those of you
think.
that don't, to keep tuned in for the next few podcasts, we'll reveal it over time. We haven't even discussed what we're going to do, what we're going to say, or when we're going to say it. So we're going to look for the guidance of Gino, who is our podcast producer. He's going to tell us exactly what to do. You guys agree with that?
Yes.
Yep,
Of course.
and then episode 2 we're gonna reveal all the details of Dom's private life.
Oh, shit. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Should I wear a shirt?
Short
Yeah.
and flip flops.
I want to. Maybe I do like my boy Ryan Rice, the no
The no
shirt,
shirt.
social media
Little Bert
podcast.
Kreischer.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, I forgot the fake mustaches. We gotta do the fake mustaches.
And fake hair.
Hey,
Yeah.
let's go. A new wig
Yeah.
every
New wig.
every
Who this?
episode.
Dude, that
Yeah.
would get viral.
Yeah.
Cool, dude. But you've accomplished a lot over the years,
Thank
man.
you.
It's very, very inspiring. I
Yeah.
love the fact of how you always keep your eyes open for opportunity. And I think all of your learning experiences over the years has given you kind of a really good gut like you can see opportunity and you can know whether it's going to be fruitful or not.
Yeah.
And I can't, a lot of that is experience, but a lot of it is just like your extreme interest in being able to see that something is going to prevail.
Yeah, I like I said, I think that chip on my shoulder with not going to college really like made me feel inferior to my classmates and my
Mm-hmm.
friends. And then like the obsession with like owning my own business and like being responsible for myself and eating what I killed was like so interesting to me. And then you start going down those rabbit holes of like coaches and motivational speakers and things like that. And you just get so jacked up and pumped up that like my only thought was like, man, I have to watch Shark Tank. I have to watch Marcus Lemonis, the
Yep.
guy who like flips businesses. Like I just started getting so interested like with how businesses work and like how companies operate, why they operate the way they do, why like why these things happen in big corporate companies, how you become a number like
Mm-hmm.
versus a small company where you're like a prized possession.
Yep.
It's just so interesting.
Yep.
And these businesses are almost like people, like they have personalities and they have stories, so and character.
So if you're gonna take one thing away from this podcast, it should be don't go to college.
Don't go to college or go.
So
Or go.
I 100% would not like. I don't have kids. Um, I think if I had kids, I wouldn't tell them they need to go to college.
Mm-hmm.
I would let them kind of see what makes the most sense for them. But I genuinely do not believe you need a college degree for anything. And the reason I'm going to say that is my brother, he has his CP or he went to get his CPA license, never got it, but he has a degree in finance. He went to a very good school. He has a ton of college debt. This kid literally bought a $10,000 certificate for computer programming and now makes double the amount of money he's ever made at any accounting firm he's ever worked for. And he got it off of a $10,000 certification.
Mm-hmm.
It did not come from his financial background whatsoever.
Right.
And then I look at myself and what I've accomplished, and I'm like, you really don't need that.
Right. Right.
As long as you have, determination and the grit to keep going, you can really accomplish anything you want.
Cool. Well, with that being said, are you guys cool with wrapping up?
Let's do it.
Cool. Well, guys, we appreciate you guys for joining us. Until next time, I'm Dominic Felix,
Sam Val here.
Luis Rodriguez.
and we appreciate you guys. See you
Sweet.
later.
See ya.